To QI, where tonight we'll be looking at the 3 L's. That's location, location, and location. And on the road to L are the fiendish Aisling B, the diabolical Jason Manford, the Mephistophelian Johnny Vegas, and that infernal Alan Davis. You all have satanic horns. Aisling goes.
Oh.
Jason goes.
Classic.
Johnny goes. And Alan has a tail.
Are we nearly there yet?
Now, for your convenience, we have a lavatory on site. This being the L series, there is a very good chance that there will be one question to which the answer will be lavatorial. You're right, darling.
Sorry, that's harder than I thought it was.
You hit yourself with a penny. And if that is the case, you can play your spend a penny card, and if you are right, you will get extra points. Such is the nature of that particular joker. Now, here's a question about a very special location. What would you find at the exact centre of the observable universe?
Oh, you?
Oddly enough. Possibly. Norfolk, yes.
There isn't a centre of the universe, really. So isn't the centre of the universe just the person who's looking out? Because it must be the same...
You are so absolutely right, it hurts.
In any direction?
Brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I know a thing, because our esteemed creator, John Lloyd,
yes,
in his rather good Edinburgh Festival show,
yeah,
told us that of all the billions of galaxies that there are only a certain number observable from Earth. Do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? Do you know? 4.
With the naked eye.
What observable from Earth? 4
other galaxies.
For the galaxies.
And, well...
I remember at school them doing something with a balloon. The teacher, and he put loads of dots on a balloon, and then he sort of said it was like the closest to explaining the universe as he could do.
That's absolutely right. Although there has been an absolute statement of where the centre of the universe is, which is that it's at the meeting of Bank Street and 6th Street in the town of Wallace, Idaho. There it is. Centre of the universe.
Is that the mayor of Idaho, though? Has he said that?
Yeah.
Well, it covers
do
Idaho.
well for tourism and gone, why don't we just say the centre of the universe is here?
You're absolutely right.
Made it
He
up.
said it because there was no particular scientific evidence to say that it wasn't the centre of the universe. They decided in that...
Say that
We'll have it.
everywhere.
Yeah, but it's Americans like to stake a claim. They're land grabbers. It's in their DNA, so to be.
Yeah.
Not that we weren't in our colonial era, of course.
Isn't the sun the centre of the universe?
Well, sorry, I didn't want to laugh at that.
What a way to build me confidence.
That was the most... I thought that was a serious question as well. We both looked to you, and you looked at us like the peasants on the land. Going, will we ever be free of this tyranny? Never.
I'd like to go in the toilet, but doesn't the Wiki Hole Witch live there?
Well, I'm sorry that it sounded quite so patronising. The centre of the universe is apparently Bank Street and 6th Street in Wallace, Idaho, or...
The sun.
Yes? The unutterable beast. The exact centre of the observable universe, you'll find the unbearable lightness of Johnny Vegas, or whoever happens to be observing it. We all know what the Big Bang theory is, but what's the Big Splat theory?
Does the Big Bang come out the Big Splat?
No, it doesn't.
Is it the last thing you hear before an anvil hits your head?
Oh, horrible, yes. God.
Is there something to do with, I don't know, will the Earth... Is the Earth and the Moon and all the other planets one thing? And then they...
today, Jason Manford.
Am I? Thank you, Mr. Stiliano. Physics teacher.
It is a theory. It's the sort of predominant theory, because nobody knows where the moon came from. There was a theory that there was a planet called Theia, in Greek mythology, Thea was the mother of Selene, who's the goddess of the moon, and that there was a collision with the Earth. Maybe.
That's it, I remember that.
There it is.
It looks like a sun hat, like the world is having going on a night.
Has the world gone to the races?
Yeah.
The idea is that Thea banged into the Earth or banged a piece of matter into the Earth. If that were true, then the moon should contain bits of alien rock as well as Earth rock. As it is, it only contains bits of rock that are similar to those on Earth, almost identical.
Didn't something land and kill all the dinosaurs?
There were several extinction events, one of which was supposedly a big meteor. The other one was a huge volcano, which caused a huge greenhouse effect.
I remember years ago, you know when Mount St Helens went off in the States? That was at an age where I obviously thought it was in my hometown. I thought my parents were being incredibly casual about the impending doom, and I get back in the bag and saying we should really go to Blackpool. Or at least to a safe zone.
I thought St Helens was only a rugby league team. I didn't know it was a town as well.
Yeah, it's huge. We're big enough to be a city.
Oh, how
if we could build a cathedral, but that would attract outsiders, and they would only question our faith.
Do you know what?
And who wants that, Stephen?
I think we might be coming to your ways later.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So be on the qui vive, as they say in France. Yeah. The fact is, the big splat is one of the theories about the creation of the moon. There are a few others. I'll go through them if you like. One was Charles Darwin's son George, who said that a huge lump of material was flung off the Earth by the extreme speed of its rotation at the beginning of its existence. And this, the hole it left is the Pacific Ocean. That's what his theory was.
No, he's guessing there.
Well, yeah.
He's got a clever dad, people believe me.
And there's a final theory which we rather like, which is that Venus had the moon and we appropriated it as it passed by at one point. It's particularly good because it was the people who devised this theory don't really believe it. They just want to keep the argument alive and come up with fresh ideas, which is rather pleasing.
They just invented a theory to keep the argument alive.
Basically, yeah.
I had an ex-girlfriend like that.
Very good, I can imagine it. Yes, nobody knows where the moon came from. Now, if Johnny and Jason got naked, covered their legs... It's pretty good, isn't it? I know.
I mean, I can't.
I can't wait. I've got a show to open wedding gifts together.
He's still the beating hearts of the nation. If they got naked, covered their legs in lard, and put their hands on each other's shoulders, what could we expect to happen next?
I would guess Ofcom would get involved.
Something com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd obviously be the female in the relationship. I'm the one who needs rescuing.
Yeah.
Why are those eggs in lard? Are they going to slither about?
Legs are important in this particular pursuit. You were talking about we don't want people to come to St Helens because they might not approve of our ways.
It's a red wine that we are about to trample the grapes for that you can also fry with. It's the first kind of
wine.
Yeah, it's the first kind of sipping lard.
Yeah, that's right.
So you can have a glass and do your chips in it also.
Available in every Yates's wine lodge.
Yeah.
It'd be a rush like at Christmas when Jamie Oliver said to use goose fat, except this time they'd be using comedians kind of dripping. You go, you know what, these potatoes taste a bit funny.
Sure, try frying Johnny dripping. No, we're in North, and forgive me for my accent, I do my best. We're in North, and all right, it's a pursuit in the northwest.
It's not shin kicking.
Yes, it is shin kicking. You knew about shin kicking.
I did. My uncle was one.
Very good. There you are. And I don't know if he left. Did he bequeath you his pair of clogs?
He was. You know what? By the time I knew him, he was blind and he spoke at like pretty much nonsense in the corner. But he was a phenomenal shin kicker. He was a very tough man, and that was his pastime, was shin kicking.
Is that a blade?
Yes, it is.
Take it in turns.
Oh, yeah.
To kick each other in the shin as hard as you can. And it's the first person to basically...
Do you know what they cry if they give up? It's rather wonderful. You'd think it'd be, I give in, or, stop it. No. Go on with your brother. Yeah. No. It's not that. They shout, sufficient. That's the cry.
That's my climax call. Sufficient! I'd like to stress, there's no domestic violence involved. It's just we're not greedy in our nature up north.
I have to confess, I've never heard the phrase climax call before. took a bit of time for me to understand what you were saying. Forgive me.
Did they
It's actually from bird watching.
Did they rip the skin off each other's legs and stuff?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
God.
one of the reasons for larding the shins was in order to encourage a glancing blow rather than a really vicious one. But the skill was obviously to move your legs so that it was a glancing blow.
Is it if you put your arms on the shoulders, you know the way you can't hit someone if you put them an arm's length? Do they try to not get kicked?
I think it means you're in a stable position, so you're not escaping completely, but you can move your legs.
I don't know how short the legs are of people you know. But standing there, you've still got a fair bit of range, haven't you?
Well,
You'll be doing it with Ewoks.
The more I get to know you, the more I think men are mad. They're always up to something ridiculous. Kicking each other in the lardy shins. You're like...
Shin kicking is probably what it was called on an everyday basis, but in the 19th century there was a special word for it, which was purring or purring. Purring or pouring or parring. They seem to be all used. Parring, purring. Parring maybe because you were parrying away. Nobody quite knows. But anyway, it was a popular pastime. A lot of betting on it. Yeah. And there are shin kickers to this day in the oldest Olympic Games since the Greek ones, which we've covered before, which are in the Cotswolds.
Do they have a Channel 4 programme called Shin Kickers' Wives? My God, he's making so much money kicking shins. I love him. I don't like his personality, but it's just
Is he called a stickler?
He's a stickler. He's the umpire or referee.
Stickler for detail.
He's stickler for the rules, exactly. Now,
okay,
you can probably just see that he's got straw coming out of the bottom of his trousers, and that's what they use. They pad their shins. They're not like tough northerners. No. They pad their shins because this is in the Cotswolds.
Get a bit of lard on that, you lad.
Next thing you know, they'll be bringing in Crocs. They'll be going on for 9 days of shin kicking.
That castle looks really old.
I'm not sure it's a real castle.
Oh, no, don't spoil it. You have to spoil everything.
Get that wind up and that's going over, isn't it?
Are you sure this is a real castle? Yes.
My gran used to say sufficient when she'd eaten enough.
Oh, ample sufficiency.
Yeah.
That's the phrase.
Say
Isn't it?
ample?
Or your
Or I had
granddad was
sufficient.
kicking her under the table.
Yeah, maybe.
And she didn't want to let on. She just put her knife up at the sufficient. Sitting there weeping once she'd gone home.
We should have done it when we had the Olympics. You know, you're allowed to include a couple of games, like, you know, people going, put darts in, put like stuff we were good at, put snooker in. Like, we should have gone, put shin kicking in. Some poor Brazilian like what?
Take that, Germany.
I just can't bear the thought of all the other countries beating us at it.
We invented this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's enough. A Johnny Foreigner doing this. Keep this quiet.
The Shin Kickers Association of Britain are known as SCAB, you're pleased to know.
Are they?
Perhaps appropriately. And Johnny's uncle was one, which is brilliant. We never knew that. Really impressive. Shin kicking was a popular sport in Lancashire pubs for 150 years. Now, here's a pub in Lancashire. My question is, how did Spanking Roger woo the ladies?
I know that pub.
Do you know it?
Yeah, I do.
Where is it?
It's in, like, I think it's in Kersal or Salford area.
It's Manchester area, quite right.
When I went to university, I did. I lived in a place called Castle Irwell, which was a dog track before it became a student village. Yes. but every year there was a race down the hill naked, and you would run down around this thing. All the blokes would. I didn't, obviously. It'd be weird. I didn't have I'm a grower, not a shower. and this pub was I think the guy Spanking Roger. That's how he got his wife. I think there was something to do with his wife where he was naked and she had a little look. He was quite well and down. I thought, I'll have him.
You're right. Well, this naked running was on Kersal Moor.
Kersal Moor, which has now become Castle Irwell, which is now Student Village.
That's
it's the same
exactly
place,
it. We've got a picture as it used to be, which is beautiful.
Yeah, no, it was much more of a shithole when I was there.
No, exactly. Now it's just vomit and empty Pringles tubes.
Well, that guy, Spanking Roger, even though it sounds like he was a bit of an idiot, he ended up being a big guy in the army. Like, he fought, I think he defended Gibraltar or something like that.
Absolutely right. He was the great hero of Gibraltar. This is brilliant. He's on fire.
Watching Slumdog Millionaire or something like that going, how did you know that one?
It is your manor, isn't it?
Yes, that's where I grew up, around the corner from there.
And he was a fascinating character, Spanking Roger, as he was known. He was from Scotland, actually. He was in the Scots Dragoons.
Oh, okay,
and he came down 6'4" high and of ample endowment, it seems, because he did do the naked run. That's
why it's called Spanking Roger.
He could only do it in the summer where the slapping didn't hurt him quite so much. But he did catch the eye of a 65-year-old widow whom he married.
With his
catchy corner in the eye. Her name was Minshall, Barbara Minshall.
That's right, which is Minshall Courts in Manchester. Minshall Street is where that's where her family.
She was a rich family.
Yeah.
She was,
and I think she died.
She's back in the 1760s when they married. And the next day he was immediately betraying her and spending all her money. And he spent it on, essentially, he would, on bare-knuckle fights. If anybody beat him, they were sort of free, but if he beat them, he dragooned them, as it were.
Is that why he's called Spanky and Roger?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's called Spanky and Roger because he fought. He was a brilliant bare-knuckle fighter. Yeah, that's exactly the reason.
It's got a hell of a camel foot for someone who's well endowed.
That's a bit. Yeah. I think the artist was modest. That's all, yeah.
Eating his shorts.
And life was extraordinary because he, as you rightly say, was the hero of Gibraltar with this dragooned army there. It was the longest siege in British military history, held up for 4 years and kept the rock, as we still have at time of going to press, unless the Spanish have had something to do with it. His wife died, he got into terrible debt, came back impoverished, found another woman whom he married, she was Scottish, and he died a very rich man indeed, so he had a pretty splendid life. A spanking life, in fact.
Why do they say spanking for good in England? Oh, that's spanking good time. And...
It's a very good point, isn't it? The great, much lamented Christopher Hitchens once said there is no surname in English that cannot be improved by having the word spanker put in front of it. Spanker Manford, Spanker Vegas, Spanker Bee. Spanker Bee is terrific, isn't it? Really
There's the Queen Bee, there's Worker Bees, and then there's the Spanker Bee.
Spanker Bee. I bumped into old Spanker Davis at the club the other day. Well, spanking Roger didn't spank ladies, he spanked the French and the Spanish. Roger was a strapping 6'4" with a Scottish accent, but what's short, talks gibberish, and is much sought after in Merseyside.
Johnny's uncle.
He's a diddy man.
It's not the diddy man, though oddly enough, you could barely be closer. In Liverpool, there was this, there it is, in case you wanted to know what Merseyside looked like. Ferry, cross the Mersey. And what's the largest, best-known ethnic minority in Liverpool, would you say?
Irish, I'd say.
The Irish, of course.
Yeah.
Liverpool Irish,
because
famous.
The Liverpool accent is very like the Dublin accent, and they're quite close to each other. So, like, you know, people talk like that.
That's
and all
how you do.
eventually they end up in Liverpool, and so if you go backwards, you end up
Ken Doherty, that's right.
South. Yeah,
exactly. So,
Irish,
you got Diddy Men, and you got Ireland.
Are you saying
Put
talking gibberish are Irish people?
No. You've got Diddy Men, who are little people created by Ken Dodd, and you've got the Irish. So it's not Diddy Men.
Leprechauns.
Leprechauns, thank you very much, Johnny Vaughan.
Be short.
Johnny Vaughan.
Well, it was a particular event in 1964. It was thousands of Liverpudlian children streamed into the parks to look for leprechauns because there was a rumour that some had been seen, or one had been seen, or something. And they tore up plants and they ravaged the entire park system for 11 or 12 days in July 64. And then it just stopped as suddenly as it had begun.
It sounds like the Americans coming to Ireland. That's what they did, looking for leprechauns. Then it just stopped. They took their IT companies with them. They just never came back.
Absolutely.
Can I just say, just to be a little bit of a nitpicker here, those are garden gnomes.
Yeah, I know.
Very racially offended.
So, I'll give you points if you tell me how a leprechaun should look.
How a leprechaun should look. He should look charming in the eye.
Right.
He should have a sort of jaunty gait about him, and then a green hat and green outfit. And you could only find him at the end of a rainbow.
And should he be bearded?
Pot of gold. Should he be bearded? If he's not bearded, it is just a child wearing an outfit. Welcoming you to Ireland.
It's got a big red bushy beard.
I've got
bushy
one.
beard.
Have you?
You've got a big red
You've got
bushy
a
beard.
leprechaun.
You can get him at Dublin Airport. If you press him in the tummy, they go, an Irish eyes are smile, and it's one of the spookiest, scariest. My kids love it, but me and the
Is
wife
it like
are
a chippy
terrified.
doll? Like if anyone presses
It really is.
Irish eye, that's fine. You keep throwing it out the window, and then it keeps going back.
I think it's supposed to be cute and endearing, but it's actually really like a horror film. And it's got sort of an old man's voice in the distance.
I'll bring it in. My kids have got a bear. I think it's got a red heart on it, and you press it, it glows. And every so often you'll just hear it, so they'll go, I love you. And I'll I can see you, or whatever. I see. The worst one is, I see you. I remember one night, I went to the toilet, and just middle of the night, half asleep, and the batteries were going on it. And so I sort of, and all of a sudden I just said, I see you.
That's very disturbing.
Terrifying,
I wouldn't recover from that. Well, interesting. I mean, who am I to tell you that you've got it slightly wrong in what leprechauns look like because...
All right, Stephen.
They don't... No, I'm going
Look
by...
down upon me and tell me what we did wrong this time.
I'm going on early information rather than late, sort of 20th century information. There are inventions which come from the 20th century, which include the fact they wear green clothes and tall hats, and they have ginger beards. According to fairy legends and traditions of the south of Ireland from 1825, proper leprechauns, if there is such a thing, are all... Do you know they have a trade? Shoemakers. They're all shoemakers, and they are exclusively what? White. Yes. They are. They're exclusively white. And
old.
Male is the right idea. And there's the shamrock, of course. There's a rule that an Irish person told me is never going to an Irish pub in America or London that has a neon shamrock, because it'll be crap.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it would be a bit dodgy.
Yeah.
Any American sort of Irish pub.
Yeah.
Come on in, to be sure, and you'll have a right old great crack of a time.
It'd be very annoying. Yeah, but this particular chase happened, as I say, in 1964, but in 1982, a man called Brian, which is a good Irish name, told the Liverpool Echo that he had been working in the park when some children saw him and mocked him for his height, or rather lack of it. And so, joining in the sport, he spoke in sort of sort of Irish gibberish. I know, I'm sorry, I'm doing what he did. Threw sods of earth at them, and they ran away frightened, thinking he was a leprechaun. So, because they called him a leprechaun.
Back with their
they said, "Oh, you're a leprechaun," and he went, "I am that." And so they all said, "Yeah, we saw a leprechaun. We saw a real one, saw a real leprechaun in the park." And so all these kids, they all invaded it.
It's like a lost episode of Brookside.
Where does it begin? But these particular things happen from time to time, these mass delusions or whatever you might call them, and they're called the children's hunt when they involve children. So in 1964, as Beatlemania swept the world, Leprechaun Mania swept Liverpool, which London attraction cost 2 arms and 2 legs to enter. Oh, look at that, isn't that gorgeous?
Oh, wow.
Ladybird book, I'll be bound. Don't you think?
Yes, it's got the look of a ladybird book.
It looks like there's been a pigeon accident, and they're all gathered around the scene to see what happens.
Is this picture a clue? Is it in
No, it's not at all, actually.
It's not to do with art, is it?
No, it's not.
Tower of London.
Sounds like...
The Tower of London is where we need to be. Cue picture of Tower of London.
Traitors' Gate or whatever.
There's the Tower of London. And we're talking about an attraction within the Tower of London that lasted for 600 years. Henry I, who was a very early king, had a particular, rather exciting luxury that he was very fond of, that he kept in Woodstock in Oxfordshire. And King John, who was late 12th, early 13th century, moved it to the Tower of London, where it stayed for 600 years. And you had to pay to get in to see it, but you could... I say 2 arms and 2 legs. It's really 4 legs, to be honest.
Oh, like you could give an animal.
You could bring in an animal, and that would...
4 chicken drumsticks.
That
Look at a
wouldn't quite
KFC.
do, no. And that would get you in free, because they would use the animal to satisfy what you were going to see. A dragon.
A mincer.
Sort of like a dragon to them.
Mincer.
Lion or a bear?
Lion and bear, yes, all those things. A big menagerie,
Oh, wow.
as zoos were called. There's an 18th century, by the look of it, cartoon, Rowlandson-style cartoon.
That's the last dodo.
Oh, it does look a bit like it, doesn't it? I think it's some hugely complicated satire that we don't really get. Anyway, that's a cartoon of the menagerie. It lasted all the way till 1830, when it was transported to, or transferred to...
London Zoo?
To Regent's Park, to London Zoo, yes. So there was the menagerie. It was immensely popular all through those years. If you were a sheriff in the City of London and around, you had to pay 4p a day to help with the feeding of the polar bear. So they were presumably quite good animal keepers if they managed to keep these animals, because they couldn't afford to let them die very quickly. I mean, how long it would take in the 15th, 16th century to get a lion to England, it was just inconceivable how long it would take.
What sort of animals do they have?
They had...
Oh, a cat. Cool.
A cat would be... If you brought a cat or a dog to feed to the lions, or the tigers. They had tigers as well, and they had bears, and they had, as I said, polar bear. So they had what were considered immensely exotic animals. You would feed them, and free admission.
I bet that was used as a punishment for kids.
We'll feed you to the lions.
You do that again, I'm taking you there, and you're getting fed to the bloody lions. He'd walk them right up to the door if they were being really bad.
Well,
But what if you had a pet lion? And you turned up and you wanted entrance and they went, "It's a bit rich for my blood." You know what I mean? Yeah, take the lion, see how far you get.
There was a rather unfortunate incident. In 1830, a keeper accidentally allowed 2 tigers and 1 lion to be in the same enclosure, and there was a horrible fight that he only managed to end by introducing a sort of red-hot prongs to the noses of the tigers, who eventually stalked off. But who do you think won?
2 against 1.
Yeah, and his tigers, yeah.
The Lion King.
No, the Lion King didn't win, I'm afraid. Simba licked his wounds and died a few days later. Yes, very sad, very sad. But anyway, yeah, it was an amazing place. Imagine an imaginary menagerie managed by an imaginary menagerie manager. So there we are. Now, what would you do in 12th century London if you saw this man?
It is a ghost.
Oh, you're spending a penny, are you?
My penny.
Jason's spending his penny. You're absolutely right.
You go
You're
over
absolutely right.
You put that round you.
That's right. Do you want to try it out?
Go on then.
Is that not an old-fashioned Portaloo?
This is Steve, one of our most
do I do?
gifted intellectuals. Intellectual elves. And I believe there's an extra farthing for a happy ending.
Yeah, sufficient. Sufficient.
So, that's right. In the 12th century, there were those who were a little bit who were a little bit pernickety and didn't want to be seen taking a poo in the street, as many did. And so these gentlemen would come around with their big capes and allow you a little bit of privacy.
Did people used to just poo in the street?
Otherwise, they would poo in the street, I'm afraid.
Were
yeah.
they?
Yep.
Times have changed, haven't they, Stephen?
They have, absolutely. So there's a lot of peeing in the street, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll admit to that, but, you know, we need...
Quite. Needs must. May I thank a senior elf who has done something well beneath his huge dignity. Steve Colvin, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Marvellous service. We do know the name of one of these, Thomas Butcher, because in the records he was fined for overcharging.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, afterwards, like, they looked in and went, I think you can give me a fiver, you do.
Possibly. That wouldn't be overcharging. Oh, dear.
Did they have anyone standing beside him selling, like, deodorant to lollipops?
There was a whole...
Toilet roll, really, that's what you want behind you.
Now, there's an animal that sort of also does that similar draping effect. Do you know what it might be?
It's a bird with,
It is
its,
a bird.
with its feathers. I can't remember. Is
its
it a
wings.
night?
It's a black heron. And why would it do that? Why would it...
To protect its eggs?
There it is.
That's the one.
There's it doing it. Black heron.
Is it to trick its prey into thinking it's nighttime?
It's not to think it's nighttime. It actually creates a shadow, and fish are very drawn to cooler water in certain climates. So the fish see this, what they think will be cooler water, because there may be a tree overhanging or something like that, and it just gobbles them up. So it's a lure. It's a wonderful, clever lure.
It's amazing to watch, actually. We did a show for the BBC called Walk on the Wild Side, which you did.
Yes, I remember doing the voices for various animals. Yeah,
and it sort of it does it in quite an odd motion, like it's quite fast. Because we did a thing and it just went nighttime, daytime, nighttime, daytime.
That's so sweet.
Our little fun little sketch.
I do it with men in nightclubs. I go.
It's you.
It is me.
Well, there you go. Horror. Medieval lavatory attendants provided personal privacy and a bucket. Now it's time to get our kit off and frolic in the sub-zero temperatures of general ignorance. So fingers on buzzers, if you would. What's black and white and doesn't live in the Arctic?
Penguins.
Oh, what a shame. Oh. Well, you know, the fact is they're not indigenous to the Arctic, the North Pole. And you're right, they don't naturally occur there, but man has taken them there as pets on boats because they're cute, and then they were left there and they sort of got on and made a living pretty happily amongst the fish there, with
Despite being eaten by polar bears.
Well, that was a surprise when they met the polar bears.
Why are you so dressed up and where are you off to? Why are you seeing all the penguins?
Despite what they say, there are some penguins in the Arctic. Which part of the world does the idea of eating frogs' legs come from? Go on, Jason.
France.
No! Very sweet of you. You are nice.
Is it England?
Yes! Yes, so. So far as we can tell, this is absolutely right. There is evidence of the early Neolithic British eating frogs' legs in our most iconic memorial. There it is. Stone, look at it, henge. Yeah, exactly. What could be Hengier or Stonia? How many years ago? I'll give you 1,000 either way. When we discovered
4,000.
4,000? It's about 9,000 years ago. That's to say, it's between 7,000 and 6,000 BC. There is evidence not just of eating, well, as toads, but also we've got a three-course meal evidence. Frogs with hazelnuts, followed by a fish course, followed by blackberries. That's not bad, is it?
Sounds nice.
That would love to see you through nicely. Very healthy. Very healthy. To the nearest 1,000 tons, how many tons of frogs' legs do the French get through a year?
500,000.
500,000 tons. 500,000 tons. It's between 3,000 and 4,000. Still a fair quantity.
I thought they had massive frogs.
It would fill.
Bad.
So, frogs' legs were first eaten in Wiltshire. What's the name of the fortifications that mark the northern boundary of Roman Britain?
Oi there, yeah.
Come on, then. Yeah. Hadrian's Wall.
Oh, dear, dear, dear. Anyone in the audience know?
What's further north? Where do they go that was further north than that?
Antonine. Oh, dear. Audience get a penalty. There, you fell into our trap. There are some intelligent people who do know that the Antonine Wall is north of Hadrian's Wall, but a very obscure fact, certainly confess I had no idea of, it's the Gask Ridge system, which is the oldest and indeed the northernmost of the boundaries. There's the Antonine Wall. We can see Hadrian's Wall there. And there's the Gask Ridge, which doesn't
look as good.
Doesn't go from coast to coast.
I would start taking maybe go around it.
I think I use the same builders as that.
You could walk round it a little bit, but it was the northernmost.
All right, well, it's a defence against fat people.
Lazy people.
We don't. Oh, do you have to walk? I won't bother.
Hadrian's Wall remains the longest continuous fortification in Europe. Obviously, it's nothing compared to the Great Wall of China, but it was still pretty impressive. It was garrisoned by how many troops in its day, do you think?
I don't know, but I do know that they took 40,000 troops to try and suppress Scotland, and then when they got there, they found there was nowhere really to suppress because everyone was hiding. And at night, they'd come out and attack them, and they just ended up giving up. So there were thousands of people.
Yeah, 9,000 garrisoned the wall. They came from all over the known empire, including from the Tigris, what we now call Iraq. Iraqi Arabs were stationed. They must have found it very chilly and unpleasant.
What wall is that there? That's a Gask, is it?
No, that's Hadrian's Wall.
Ah.
Yeah, which is in great shape. I don't think the Gask Wall is in much shape.
I went for a walk along there with a friend of mine he's like a real Cockney geezer.
Yeah.
And he's always, that sort of myth of like people being friendly in the north and not so friendly in the south. Yeah, we walked up along there. This summed up the north-south divide for friendliness and not friendliness and talking to strangers. And that. Two blokes walked past. It was about 8:30 in the morning. We were having a walk round, and a bloke went morning, and I went morning, and my mate went who's that? Just saying good morning to a stranger. That's not weird.
Now, what's this? Pass it down. Just all you've got to do is tell me what it is. Have a taste. It's, I promise you, not poison, despite being green.
It's not wasabi, is it?
Wasabi, isn't it?
Wasabi. You would be served this if you were to go out around London and go to most Japanese restaurants, and I would have a taste. Whoa!
I
pretty
can't.
hot. Do you find it too hot?
Yeah, I can't even. My mother thinks tomato and basil soup is too spicy.
Jesus.
Oh, that's too spicy for me.Hat's in that, Aisling?
That is as close to wasabi as you can get without it being wasabi. I nearly took a mouthful of that, you know. That's not a joke.
I can't take chili, but I can take...
I put a load in because you said it wasn't.
You said it was not wasabi.
I'll tell you what it is.
It's not jackass, it's QI.
What you're eating there is horseradish. Now, you may say wasabi is Japanese horseradish, but the wasabi you get sold in British restaurants is almost always ordinary British horseradish dyed green.
No.
Yes, because real wasabi, although it's related to horseradish, takes 2 years to mature and it's very expensive to transport. So it's much easier to use the British stuff, which grows on railway sidings and is cheap as chips, to use that instead.
You know what, Stephen? That would have been lovely, just if you'd explained it and used some bloody pictures. Rather than give us some and go put that in your mouth.
So sorry.
I can hear things like a dog does. It's done things in me. I've been waiting all my life to become a superhero, and all you had to do was give me a bloody spoonful of that. I'm seeing through walls.
It's opened your eustachian tube in your sinuses.
Yeah, cancel my card. I'm flying home.
Oh, bless you. Now, shove your little dishes away, if you can. You might
that's enough superpowers for one day.
Now I'm going to demonstrate something called the Leidenfrost effect, named after a certain Dr. Leidenfrost. So, allow me to present a tray, which may seem rather mysterious. There we go. Now, essentially, what the principle is, I'll explain it first, and then you'll see it, is that when you drop some water on a very hot surface, it kind of beads into a little ball and goes around. It's often a way you test the heat of a frying pan or so on, or if you drop water accidentally onto a hot plate. And if you allow this beading to take place on certain surfaces, the beading is sort of predictable and rather exciting. Then you can see a little bit of it on VT, in which the bead is going uphill. It's being dropped from a pipette onto a very hot, ridged, sort of sawtoothed surface. And you can see the ball itself. That's
how my sperm reacts with a ridged condom.
You may be wearing it inside out.
Why have you got your sperm in a pipette?
Sufficient.
Spreading it. Right. So I have pipettes here, and this is room temperature. I'm going to put it on here, and you can see as I drop the water that it's just nothing much happens. But the beads go off. It's starting to boil and frizz, and as it gets hotter, you'll see the Leidenfrost effect of it.
You threw the women who were watching the Chippendales.
But where it gets interesting is where these things have been left on the heat and so already incredibly hot. And this is a little concave thing, and we drop a bit in it. It goes round and round and round and round and round, rather beautifully. And now we've got another one with the sawtooth that we saw the climbing up, but this is a circular sawtooth, and it should go round and round as well. Whee! Incredible speed. Look at that.
I don't know why young people have to go and, play Grand Theft Auto when they've all this sort of crack to look forward
I know! Not fun? And for the grand finale, you can see here, next to the hot plate, is we've got ourselves a sort of maze. And let's see what happens here. There's a very predictable path, and they go all the way around. If they've got enough energy, they'll go around twice. There you go, big fellow.
That's like chasing me dad round the shopping place. Don't abandon me.
That's it.
I will make you proud. Dad, come back.
Hours of harmless fun. Now, I asked the very nice scientist from the University of Bath who lent us this equipment what technical solutions this may offer the world. And he said, actually, most of the time, the Leidenfrost effect provides technical problems for plumbing and things like that, and it isn't always a desirable effect. So if you can think at home of some useful solution that can be used from the Leidenfrost effect, we'd be very grateful. But thank you, Kei Takashina from the University of Bath, for the loan of this splendid equipment. And that brings us to the sizzling scores. Well, my word, we have well, I'm not surprised he's been on fire. Despite one klaxon, clear lead from Jason Manford at +3.
Oh,
And in second place, that intellectual warhorse, Johnny Vegas, on 2. And a magnificent debut only brought down by penguins for Aisling B on -7. In a shock surprise, in nearly last place is the audience with -10. Whoa! But just picking them in the L for loser position is Alan Davis with -14. Aisling, Johnny, Jason, Alan and me, and I leave you with the rather poignant last words from Stan Laurel, who, when asked how he felt, said, "I wish I was skiing." "Oh, Mr. Laurel, do you ski?" replied the nurse. "No," he said, "but I'd rather be skiing than doing what I am doing." Good night.
Next on BBC Two, testimony from former head decision-makers of Israel's internal secret service agency as they reflect on their actions and decisions in a Storyville documentary, The Gatekeepers.